live and momentarily. I'm going to come out of the picture. We're going to be over the internet as well as social media. Norman, you're live.
Good afternoon, everyone. You are listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. If you have a internet access, just go to WCEGTalkRadio.com, click the live stream tab, or you can watch us on your smart TV, which is better than your smart people, I assume, via YouTube. And just write in or type in WCEG Network. I am Norman A. Carter Jr., your host for this special edition of Issues and Answers. And I'll be with you for the next hour or so. We're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. You may like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and on Instagram. Find us at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. By the way, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and our illustrious guest, and not the WCEG Network. Let my boss off the hook. We thank you for your continued support. This program of Issues and Answers, I'd like to welcome, first of all, Ms. Damita Chatman, who is the president for the Committee for Excellence in Elected Leaders, and a very special guest, Ms. Jerica Richardson, who's candidate for the Board of Commissioners of Cobb County. Welcome.
Hello, hello. I'm so glad to be here.
We're absolutely glad to have you on this wonderful day. Thank you for bringing sunshine. And we have we're going to be, Ms. Chatman and I will be offering you some questions, but we'd like to give you an opportunity to make your opening statement.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, my name is Jerica Richardson. Originally, I'm from New Orleans, and I have settled in Cobb County in the East Cobb area as my home now. Came up in 2005, about 15 years ago with Hurricane Katrina. And that journey is honestly part of the message that I'm trying to bring to the county, which my platform is Connecting Cobb. And it's because the greatest lesson I learned is that in the midst of uncertainty and fear, that the only way that you overcome challenges and bring people together and overcome the division that you find is by connecting, by empathizing. That was how Cobb became home when my family and I were going through Katrina and all of the trials that came along with that. Our community was able to pull together by opening up their hearts, opening up their minds, and reaching out and connecting to one another. So when we look at division in infrastructure, division in our communities, in our leadership, we can overcome it by connecting.
Great.
Thank you. Ms. Chatman, if you have some questions you'd like to start off with, or
hi, thank you, Ms. Richardson, for reaching out to me regarding this town hall. And I like what you said. So given that, the first question I'm going to ask you, being a commissioner, if Cobb County fell in that same situation, how would you come to the rescue of your constituents in a time of need, just like you did in Katrina?
Yeah, I mean, what really helped, what's really important is when you have one message and one team. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that there aren't disagreements or aren't discussions about what's the best route to make things happen to come to aid, but it's making sure that having those conversations actually happens and that there is a single leader-oriented message that filters from the top all the way down to the bottom. We were able to do that during when Katrina had happened, and in that transition, I remember when those Red Cross checks came through for my family. That's what allowed us to make ends meet. Working with the business community, with the hotel industry, making sure that we had a place to stay. Working with all of the schools so that they could plan properly with their classroom sizes, so that I could go to school, because I was still in high school at the time. I was 16 years old. And that's an example of why coordination and collaboration is so important, because otherwise there are gaps in your quality of life and gaps in your livelihood for you to be able to survive, honestly. And we're seeing the same kind of thing happen as we go through COVID, almost an exact replica, except worldwide. And so without having leaders that are willing to work together, that are willing to think proactively about what's coming and what's necessary to fill the gaps, well, this is what you wind up with. And we have to also be honest and acknowledge what the core issue is. So in this case, with regards to the COVID recovery, we have a public health issue that far supersedes all of the other issues that come as a consequence of the public health issue. So we have to work on both fronts. We have to deal with the gaps, but we have to deal with the public health issue initially. So all of those things need to be a part of that coordination. And as I said, the issues that we're facing right now is what happens when you have a lack of coordination. The federal government basically told the state government to handle it. And the state government said, well, local government, tell us what you need to do. And that is a passing of the buck. We have to be all coordinated because we're in this together. If we're going to wear masks, we all have to wear masks. It has to be a consolidated message and a consolidated effort.
Okay, I like that. If you're elected to the commissioner board, what are you going to bring to the community regarding the seniors and mostly the youth?
So yes, I believe in having a generational mindset. They say 40 years ahead of you and 40 years behind you. That is what strategic thinking really entails. So that's thinking about people that haven't even been born yet, for me, in my case. So when you talk about that, you want to make sure that you have an ecosystem that is livable for everyone, where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, to feel close to home, feel close to family. But also, once you hit retirement age, you want to experiment with life. You want to do different things that you didn't feel that you were able to while you were working on your way up to retirement. And so making sure that the community is there to meet you and support you in that aspect is really important. And we do have quite a mixed population here. If you were to look at some of the demographics of Cobb County, it really is, there are some highly concentrated areas. So you don't really have, it's not super mixed here. And I talk about that where our communities are pretty divided at this point. And I don't just mean geographically, I mean divided in terms of demographics, in terms of issues, and so on and so forth. So there's a real opportunity to tie more people together and bring more people into the fold. But I think mobility is one of the things that allows for that. So improving sidewalks, improving transportation between some of our different economic centers. It's really important. You look at the Brave Stadium, you look at Town Center, you look at Smyrna, you look at East Cobb, some of the areas around the Avenue in East Cobb. You've got a lot of opportunity for connecting people to all of the things that are a part of their community, the businesses, movie theaters, restaurants, et cetera, making sure that you have this thriving ecosystem and you're able to enjoy and move around in a safe way. So mobility, transportation, that is very important for bringing that side together and improving the overall quality of life for those that are older in our community, are more wisdomed members of our community. As for the youth, definitely bringing in more engagement opportunities. So that's where we see a lot of drop off. We always talk about participation of the next generation getting involved. And so there are opportunities that we can stand up, whether it's a youth-led commission board, making sure that the high schools are actually participating in some of these political discussions. And then also just making sure that we're investing more into our parks and recreational opportunities so that more families can be a part of different after school activities and so on.
Now, I do know because we're a military family and we were thinking about moving up there. You have that big retirement military field up there, majority, retired military. And so I do know how they think, some of them think. So how can you bring the new homeowners, the new residents, bring them in? Because where the military, where I was coming from, is kind of stable and kind of the old way. But now you got to bring the new way, because right now the new generation is basically going to take over. So how are you going to be able to handle that? And have you ever thought about, and I know it got to do with the federal, but kind of revamping up there around Fort Dobbins and so forth, if you become the commissioner up there?
So one of the things that I'm advocating for are more master planning exercises. These are very intentional planning exercises that are taken on in coordination with the communities that are specified. I want to see that happen in a more robust way. And part of what I talk about, even with this election year, is 3 seats are up for election on our Board of Commissioners out of 5. So when we talk about the board, the makeup of the board that is to come, we want to have people that are like-minded, ones that are empathetic to every part of our community, that can understand the different issues that face the different parts of our community, and to think with one mind. Because when you have a consolidated board, you're able to drive a real vision. Because right now, the way that we're structured, we have very, our commissioners tend to go their way. We have 4 district commissioners and 1 chair. And District 1, as long as they feel good, then District 1's going to vote for that thing, District 2, so on and so forth. And so they're almost pitted against each other. And this really impacts the wonderful workers that we have for the county, because they have to make sure everything runs together. But when we have 4 different visions, plus the chair, whatever they're putting on the agenda, that can be very, very difficult for our county workers to do what they need to do, because all of their efforts are countywide. So in terms of the biggest change that I'm looking to bring is to have us thinking in a consolidated manner. And it's something I jokingly say in my day job. I bring a bunch of opinionated people together into a room and get them to agree to one thing. That's my personality. And so with this particular role, that's what I would be looking to do, is bringing a bunch of people, very, very opinionated people together, and us walking out on a united front saying, this is the vision that we have for Cobb County, so that our county workers can do what they do best and make that happen. It's really empowering for our county manager and our county chair, our department chairs, to be able to have that consolidated vision, because they're not fighting against each other. It makes no sense when we have departments haggling over what's the best thing for, well, I want this, well, you need that, well, my commissioner says this, and I'm able to get, we don't need that. We need to have a real vision. We need to be able to have something that we can believe in. And for me, it's that connecting Cobb. That is what we're believing in. We're believing in the idea that when it comes to affordable housing, when it comes to public safety, economic development, when it comes to disaster recovery, that Cobb County leads in those efforts, that we're leading when it comes to transportation and environment and so on. That is the vision, that we're showing, that we're setting an example for what real progress and what a thriving community for everyone can look like. And I believe that we can do it.
I like that.
That is what I'm pushing for. And so when it comes to our military families, it's making sure that everyone has a seat at the table, because as you can tell, I have not lived every life. I have not lived in every neighborhood or worked every job. So I rely on people to talk, to share, to express their stories and their concerns, so that we can actually identify where the gaps are and ask the right questions. Because if you're in these rooms, half the time the right questions aren't even being asked, because the perspectives are too homogenous. They're too they don't consider all of the different people that make up a community. And so that's what's paramount in order for us to get there: asking the right questions, having the right people in the room, then getting those opinionated people to work together, and then walking in that vision and getting excited about that vision, because everyone had a part in building it. Okay. So
I like that. Knowing, before I turn it over to you, I got to ask, you been in that seat before?
No.
This is your first time running?
My first time running.
Oh my, that's all I got to say. Oh my. All right, Norm. Okay, Norm.
Well, it's a little difficult because your answers are so short that, just kidding. Just kidding. Uh, uh, I just want to, I would like to really get back to the theme, your theme of connecting Cobb. And I think that one of the things that I've seen since moving into this area is that everyone is interested in your little fiefdom, so to speak, and no one is trying to build that regional concept, and that really affects things like public transportation. And I will use Truist Park as an example. Not a whole lot of thinking went into that as far as public access. So do you have a plan for not only getting your commissioners together, but also reaching out to the surrounding counties in the metropolitan Atlanta area to better things for all communities as far as things like public transportation? Because building highways and wider highways is not going to do what you want to do, especially since one of your theme is improving the ecosystem.
Absolutely. Great question. So there are a couple parts that you put in there about coordinating with other counties. Of course, those are relationships that I'm continuing to grow, but some I already have. And there's definitely a lot of cohesion on that front that we really want to connect. But the other thing is not just connecting outside of the county, but also internally. Because at the end of the day, the community wants to know, well, what am I getting out of it? Because not everyone goes outside of Cobb County. We do have a lot of people that go through Cobb County, but not everyone does. And you have everyone as a taxpayer. So at the end of the day, we want to look at both connecting internally and outside of the county, because that's what's going to prove the viability of Cobb County, our ability to continue to thrive. And whether we have a recession or any of those things, we need to be able to have what we need to get through. So there is I do have an extensive transportation plan. I refer to it as a transitional plan, with the dream being that we have heavy or light rail going up to the Battery, with the commuter rail going up to Marietta, and then a bunch of tributaries connecting town center to the Battery, to Marietta, to East Cobb, to Smyrna, and some of the other areas in West Cobb, like and Northern Cobb as well, like Kennesaw and Ackworth. So that's a part of the dream plan, which also includes sidewalks and then widening lanes that go that are tributaries to the highways. The transition there, because there are a lot of constraints that you have to look at. On one end, the federal government, they used to subsidize about 80% of the cost for major transportation projects. That is not the case with the new administration. So we can't rely on that either. And the cost for heavy rail is about $300 million a mile, give or take, 50 million or so either side. And that takes into account some of the geographical changes that have to be made as well, because you can't just build the rail, you have to move things out of the way.
Right.
And so that's very expensive. That's about half of our budget, our entire annual budget for 1 mile. Wow. So that's not enough. And so what it is that I'm looking as a transitional plan is the BRT option that has been proposed by several different groups and studied, and looking at launching a pilot around the Smyrna area, connecting Smyrna with the Cumberland CID, and that is where the Battery is, and looking at maybe some managed lanes or dedicated lanes for the airport trip from the Battery down to the airport. There are lots of other things to consider, but the transition includes that component as one of the top considerations. One, it's relatively affordable. It's something that we can do. It's also something that we can do within the next 4 years so that we can start seeing the benefits of having more transit options. And it allows us the flexibility for if a new technology comes out in the future, we can potentially adopt it. But primarily, it allows us to start laying the infrastructure that's needed for that dream. So there's no loss, there's no repeat costs, so on and so forth. So the transition is really what I'm aiming for, and then working with a lot of other partners in the area to make sure that that transition has the proper milestones, that we're thinking about it holistically, and so on.
Fantastic. Thank you. on the Board of Commissioners, you're primarily concerned with the budget for Cobb County, correct?
Mhm, mhm.
So have you seen any budget deficiencies that that you would like to improve upon?
So I will say that Cobb County for a very long time, knock on wood, maybe they'll change, but it has been led by a lot of fiscal conservatives, which I would say I fall into that category. But a lot of people talk about the taxes in Cobb, and it's been led by fiscal conservatives. And we are basically functioning off of about 60% of other counties our size budget. Yay. So we are doing everything that we possibly can because we have great services here. People don't feel that much of a deficit specifically within District 2, which is obviously the district I'm running for. However, in other districts, there are gaps. There are deficiencies being felt. Our police department, for instance, has a lot of deficiencies that they're looking to have some additional resources be pulled in so that we can effectively do things like community policing. So there are some opportunities for us with regards to our budget. So my biggest commitment has been two things. One, to get very innovative about our budget. It's not so much how much you have, it's what you do with what you have. So making sure that we're thinking about our budgets in that way. And then having a budget process where we actually are, instead of priority driven or line item driven, we're driven by initiatives, vision initiatives, so that we can truly justify our costs so that we know where it's going to take us within the next 5 to 10 years. Not just assessing for what's the word, devaluation or so on. We're looking for where does it take us. But the second thing is making sure that we expand our contributing tax base. So this means that the more businesses that we have, the more commercial revenue we'll have, or the more tax revenue that we'll receive from that particular business, as opposed to the tax burden being pushed towards residential. So that's more so what I'm looking at, and just strategic investments, expanding our tax base, keeping taxes low. There you go.
Fantastic. Great answer. Absolutely great answer. Ms. Chatman, do you have any?
You keep on going, Mr. Carter. I like where you're going.
I don't know. Your answers have been really, because you cover a lot in just with one question. But since you come from an area that was devastated by Katrina, and I know that the state has an agency that deals with this primarily, but does your district, does Cobb County have an emergency preparedness plan that's in place?
Yeah, so a lot of the things no one's starting at zero in all of the areas. That said, there's always room for improvement. We know after every disaster, there is a debrief, reevaluation the current plans. So that's something that we do have that I would like to see improvement on. But secondly, when it comes to our resident companies here, our corporations that reside within Cobb, I would be looking to make sure that the company commits to have an enterprise risk management plan, as long as they're north of $1 million revenue and have a facility. I would like to see that happen, because then we can make sure that we are all locked up with our corporate community as well. Because we have issues right now with Sterigenics in that same space. And so that's something that I think that can prevent moving forward.
And Sterigenics seems to be a regional concern.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's serious. And that gets into your environmental concepts, and it eventually boils down to a public health issue, which I don't think Cobb County or any other county is prepared to deal with. So yeah, that's paramount. And we talked about budget, public transportation.
Mr. Carter, let me ask a question. Do you guys have emergency sirens up in Cobb County?
I'm sure we do. I've heard some, but I don't want to say yes, no, because I haven't done an extra dig on that. So yes, I'm sure we do. Okay,
got you. And I noticed that they're doing that 285 corridor up there, the stadium, and you're probably gonna have do you have MARTA up there?
No. Well, we have MARTA to Six Flags.
Okay, Six Flags, your area covers Six Flags area too.
No. District 4 is for Six Flags, but I was just saying there is a MARTA presence.
Right, okay, that's Six Flags. Okay, so have you guys reached out to like the stadium and to bring some ideas or maybe some your concerns to them? Because I was up there having dinner maybe a month ago, first time up there. It's beautiful. And right now in COVID, it was busy then. So could you imagine when it's not COVID? That is a moneymaker. So have you guys kind of would you guys come together to try to bridge the gap or even have a seat at the table with the ladder?
Yeah, they are very involved in what's going on with the county. Even the stadium moving up this way was it's honestly a big issue for the community. They weren't necessarily happy with the way in which that decision was made. But overall, it's been a net positive. There are just some opportunities. And so the the mobility plan that I was sharing earlier does include that piece, but that stadium is home to new companies, new residents, its own ecosystem, honestly. And so in that space, they've already been very involved with the county leadership. They contribute to the county in terms of our coffers with the special taxes, just like Six Flags does. So there is a relationship that is already there. There's just more opportunities that need to be explored.
Okay. So the young man that's running with you or running against you, who's in that seat now? Is he in that seat?
No. So the incumbent retired. He announced his retirement. Bob Ott is the current county commissioner for District 2. And yeah, it's an open seat. So.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the question, was it a Democrat or Republican in that seat? Probably a Republican.
Republican.
Okay. Gotcha.
Historically, there's only been one Democrat on this board of commissioners.
Yeah.
Lisa Cupid, District 4 commissioner. Yes, gerrymandering exists on county levels too. So yes, District 4 is the strong Democratic seat. And Commissioner Cupid is actually running for chair this year. So he is running for the chair seat for the board. And Monique Sheffield is the new commissioner-elect for 4 because there's no one's running against the general.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna ask you, how do you feel about that race up there? Feel good? Your race.
I feel good. It's been so just heartwarming to see so many people committed to making sure that their voices are heard. It's honestly it's been sad and exciting at the same time. It's sad that the lines are that long. It's exciting to see that they're that long.
So I'm gonna say I'll see you cross the finish line, huh? I feel it. I'll see you cross the finish line. Okay, Mr. Carter.
I don't have a lot. 2 questions. First of all, we talked about this a little bit about public transportation, but next July, in fact, you're about to get overwhelmed with the AllStar Game, and that's going to require a lot of planning for right now as opposed to long term. So do you know if there are active plans in effect to deal with that? Because that's going to put you on the national parade.
The good thing is that our county departments do an excellent job coordinating when it comes to those kinds of events. A lot of investments have been made when it comes to our grid system, like our traffic lights and so on. And there is a lot of coordination between departments here and between the departments here in the state departments and other counties. It's just having that united message makes things a little muddled, but our county workers are very, very, very good at what they do. So.
And I understand there's a concern about CCT and MARTA connecting at the Hamilton homes. That seems to be a big concern. So anyway, something for you to address once you get in that chair.
Coming together. Coming together.
So,
Abs-
how many constituents you have in your district too?
So it's a little bit less than 200,000. We've got 147,000 registered voters, and then you've got families. Yeah, so we're a pretty big county. You know, I anticipate we'll be hitting that $1 million. No, I mean that $1 million number in a couple of years. So
Very cool.
mhm.
Given that the tone of this election right now, how will you be able to, when you get in that seat, bring the divisiveness, bringing everybody together on one page? How could you do that?
So I mean, that's part of our commitment as a campaign. Even we said we wanted to leave regardless of what happens with this campaign, we were going to leave the community in a better place than we found it. So it's been a sincere commitment to cordial conversations, collaborative conversations. I believe that every perspective is valid. A lot of times when you invalidate someone's opinion, that person will receive it as though you're invalidating them, who they are. And so you have to be very mindful, especially if you're going to be in a leadership position, to consider where someone is coming from, because that's the same respect you want. And so that is something that we've been very intentional about in our campaign. And I can say our community, this particular thing, between my opponent and myself, they should be very proud of the effort and the way in which we have approached this race, because it has been one filled with respect, one filled with mutual understanding. And I know for a fact that once elected, we'll be able to bring everyone into the fold, because we've already been bringing them into the fold all along.
Well, you know, I doing the commissioner, and I know sometimes when you get on those boards, they tend to forget that they only supposed to set policies and procedures. You don't deal with personnel. You don't deal with the city manager. It's really set policies and procedures. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I think, like I said, I think leadership, the best, the most important thing that you'll be looking for is someone that can bring a vision that everyone can rally around, or to at least help coordinate a vision that everyone can rally around. Beyond that, everything else can be filled in with expertise, books, and we have incredible talent. We have incredible talent. But being able to bring all of that together, I'll give you an example, and then I'll close that answer out. One of the things you brought up, Sterigenics. I'm concerned about the Sterigenics that we don't know about. We only know about that one because there was a report that was issued that got picked up, and that's a report that comes every 5 years on air quality. And that is not sufficient to know what's going on. Not when we have cell phones, not when we have data that collects all of this information. So being able to put that into someone's hands so that our community can be empowered to know your air quality, your water quality, your soil at any given time, that is a vision. So the data is there, the personnel is there. We're even collecting, we're collecting it. It's currently being collected, but we're not corralling it and using it to empower people. So that is the difference.
Okay. All right, Mr. Carter.
I just have a few things to say, and perhaps I'm doing this a little bit backward. Pardon me, Ms. Richardson, but Ms. Chatman asked you a question whether you had already been in office, and I think it's the way you present yourself. And I think we neglected to talk about your qualifications and your background. So if, with your permission, I'd like to do that now.
Absolutely.
Ms. Richardson is a businesswoman, author, entrepreneur, and advocate. Originally from New Orleans, she moved to Cobb after Hurricane Katrina, and graduated from Georgia Tech, always close to my heart, with a degree in biomedical engineering.
Oh.
She currently leads the Engagement Center at Equifax, where she uses a process she designed to align Equifax's global enterprise for technology transformation. She also served her community as an appointee and secretary of the Cobb County School Board F&T Citizens Oversight Committee. Jerica's platform focuses on connecting Cobb, said that it is structured to address the most pressing issues in our county in a transparent way. Did I leave anything out?
You're good. You're good. The only thing that's been updated is my Equifax role.
Okay.
Technology operations and strategic programming. So still the same transformational efforts, but dealing with some of the more governmental oriented things. And it's a lot of fun. So
when you mentioned talking about stereogenics, you're talking from something that you have a background in addressing, or you at least have enough background to address it.
A background in corporate.
Yes.
Corporate liability. You know, when they said we can't move the equipment, there's a demand out there. Every enterprise has an ERM, which is an enterprise risk management document, which says what happens in the case of a disaster and you have to shut down operations.
Excellent.
That has to be built in place. So yeah, I do have that particular vantage point. But yes, and then of course on the engineering side, that's a bit of the functional process oriented side.
Very good. Thank you. Well, I don't think I have any other questions. Do you have any questions, Ms. Chatman?
No. Wow. Great. You did great. So next Tuesday night, where you gonna be out when your results come in? Are you gonna be at home, or you got a place that you're gonna be? Where you gonna be at?
I'm gonna be with my parents and my grandmother, and very close, some close friends, and just a few people, and some members of the campaign team that have just done an incredible job trying to get the word out there and, you know, empowering people. So that's where I will be, in Kennesaw.
Okay. Well, just listening to you, and it's funny because every time I open my Facebook page, you always popped up. And like she said, the picture don't even do justice. And I was like, okay, never heard of her. And then when we reached out, I say, that's the person that keeps popping up. I think you got your campaign people standing around you. Yep. Let me ask you a question. With the, and I live in Fulton County, and so Cobb County, you're the commission, or you're going to be the council?
Say that again?
Yours is the commissioner board, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what you think about the difference between the commissioner, Cobb Commissioner, and Fulton County Commissioner? What's the difference you think in that?
The Cobb Commissioner and who?
Fulton County Commissioner board. You guys got 7 too, right?
We have 5.
Got 7.
But I would say probably one of the biggest differences is how much unincorporated Cobb we have. Fulton County, a huge portion of Fulton County is Atlanta. And cities, while counties technically, when it comes to domain, when it comes to jurisdiction, have a jurisdiction that is broader than the city. Meaning like a county can't pass an ordinance that impedes what the state passed. So a city can't pass something that impedes what the county passed. But Atlanta is a very powerful city and very, very big in terms of land mass. Whereas in Cobb County, our cities are not as big. So we have a lot more that falls under Cobb County, specific Cobb County jurisdiction.
Okay. So if y'all have a trauma down there, do y'all go to Grady too? Or you guys got trauma hospital? Do you go to Grady?
I don't. I go to Northside.
Okay. But if you had a trauma, you guys do Cobb fly their people into Grady, or you have a trauma center?
I think it depends. I mean, we have WellStar over here that's pretty robust. And they do have a couple of different locations. I'm sure Grady is state of the art. It's kind of the catch-all. It's the place everyone goes to. But, you know, really, they have a lot invested into Grady. But it's a shared ecosystem, frankly, when you look at how. work.
Okay, great. All right, well, I appreciate you coming on, and again, I'm confident that you'll get across the finish line next Tuesday. I know you'll be glad when it's over.
I think everyone will be glad not
Yeah.
having to see the commercials anymore.
Oh, absolutely. What I usually tell people is just, when you're out there campaigning, just make sure you can campaign and do what's right, because when it's all over, you still got to live together and you got to hold your head up, and you don't want to do anything or say anything that's going to cause you to keep your head hung down. And I'm going to tell you, I just sitting here listening to you, I love your spirit. And I'm a very good person when it comes to that. I love your spirit. And I believe when you get on there, you're going to do the right thing for the people up there. Norm, I can turn it back over to you.
I was beaming as much as you are. And I would just like to perhaps step out of my bag as just a host, and perhaps invite you and your team back after your victory, so that we can invite the members of Cobb County District 2 to tune in and listen to what you are proposing to do. And perhaps you can use us as a fulcrum to really push through things that you would like to get through.
Absolutely.
So if you would like to make a closing statement now, I invite you to do that.
Well, I really do appreciate all of the very kind words you guys have shared. And it's Team Cobb, but it's Team Humanity, right? It's Team Us. And regardless of what we're doing, regardless of what I'm doing, whether it's in corporate world, you mentioned my bio, all the different things, it's about love for me. Liberty, opportunity, value, and empathy. That is the North Star. Anything that deviates from that is inconsistent. So what I tell you is the same thing. Please stay encouraged. Do what you're doing to bring visibility, because it's very hard to get to people sometimes. Sometimes it takes that much more effort, but those are the people that need you the most. So just stay encouraged, especially in this time where we are so much fear and uncertainty. It's very courageous to express love and to be bold and express it. So don't let up on that. I'm happy to have you all in that bucket, whether you were supporting me or not. It's just important that we do get the word out there and are willing to speak and talk to one another. And for the closing, just that is it. That is really it. That is the closing. Connect with your neighbors, love your neighbors, be willing to reach out and dream about what the future entails. Be excited about the fact that we have so much talent and diversity here, and that we have all of the challenges and opportunities to show what it looks like. That is the calling. So thank you.
Thank you so very much. And we thank all of you for listening to this edition of Issues and Answers. Our guest today has been Ms. Jerica Richardson. We do wish her the best of luck in pursuing the position of Board of Commissioners, District 2, Cobb County. We thank you, and we look forward to seeing you on our next edition of Issues and Answers. Good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm sorry. I meant to get a couple of pictures. I do apologize.
Okay.
I was trying to have my lunch to get ready for the next production. I'm so sorry. Damita is going to get me because I let her get off.
And it says it's still live on Facebook.
Yes, it is. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Am I hopping off or?
Yes.
Okay.